Thanks for tuning in, guys. This episode is brought to you by Old Man Copper, Smoke Eater, Mustache Wax. Literally smells like a freaking house fire. Keeps you thinking about jobs all day long. Use discount code COPPER, COPPER, 10% off. Good dude. Check him out. Instagram, Facebook, website, oldmancopper.com. Thank you. All right. Welcome back, everybody. I have the privilege to sit down with Battalion Chief Chris Gray. He's the owner and operator of Truck Company Manifesto, TCM. He established it in early 2020 to provide truck company operations, training, props, and tools designed and manufactured. And from what I've heard through the mix is if you need a prop guy, he's your guy. We'll talk about that a little bit. Chris has served in the Rhode Island Fire Service since 1993, so he's been around the block, starting in the town of Lincoln and became a lieutenant in 1998. He also served for the Lincoln Rescue Service from 97 to 03, achieving the rank of lieutenant. In 2003, Chris left Lincoln for a busier fire department, Central Fall Fire Department, and currently serves as a battalion chief in the 2nd Battalion. He's worked many different companies and found that truck was his true calling. During that time, he's also served as a rescue specialist and rescue squad leader for Rhode Island's Urban Rescue Task Force team. He's an instructor and Chris will probably correct me on this, for the Central Falls Fire Academy.
Rhode Island's Municipal Fire Academy.
There you go. Thank you.
We'll get into that later.
Perfect. So in 2015, Chris became a fire and arson investigator and assistant deputy state fire marshal through the University of Rhode Island. He's become certified through the BCI program. He currently serves on Rhode Island's IAAI committee and teaches fire behavior for the organization. He also teaches several other programs in his own company, including Street Smarts, Forcible Entry, SWAT Entry, Short Staffing, Ground Ladders, Advanced Auto X, and Modern Vehicles and EVs, SAWS for the Street, Rapid Intervention or RIT, and Firefighter Survival, Field Force Extrication, Lithium-ion batteries. If you can't figure it out, this guy pretty much has his hands in everything right now. He's been a Fools member since 2020, and that's when he found his true calling right there, by becoming a member of the New England Fools. His commitment to excellence in the fire service and fire education area makes him not just a teacher, but a student as well. And I love it. He leaves me a quote: "You can't train enough for a job that can kill you." And I love that quote so much. So, with a very amazing bio, and I'm sure I butchered half of it, Chief, thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything I messed up majorly, or is there anything you want to add in your bio, my brother?
No, Steve, it was good seeing you, bro. Again, it's always a pleasure to be hanging with you. That bio means absolutely nothing. I was just talking about this in a class I was doing the other day. I'm not there to wallpaper my office with all my achievements and my accomplishments. The whole point of saying, like, the things that I've done in my career was to prove that, they always say that an expert is somebody with a briefcase and 50 miles from their hometown.
Yeah.
So I've been immersed in the fire service since 93. And I've got like that firefighter ADD where, like, I don't stop when I get into something, and I'll get right to the end, and then, ended up pushing it even further than the end. So
Yeah,
that's why, all that stuff was there.
Well, you can literally tell, because if for the guys that didn't zone out for a second there, you're a SWAT dude, an arson guy, a fireman, a truck dude. It's like everything under the sun. So without going into all that, what we really want to sit down and talk about today is your company. More importantly, just because of what you're doing for the American Fire Service right now. So it's called Truck Company Manifesto. Please break down for the audience, hey, where did that come from? Whose brainchild was it? Why'd you develop it? And then really, what are you trying to benefit the American Fire Service with your company, brother?
So this company concept thing started just before COVID. We were seeing that the art of forcible entry, well, I'll take a step back. So Rounds Fire Academy, Municipal Fire Academy, teaching there a whole bunch. And we were finding that we get to be in contact, my state's so small, we get to be in contact with a lot of those students later on. So we'll catch them at jobs in other cities and or towns. The thing that we were seeing is some of these things that we were teaching were kind of going to the wayside if they weren't doing it all the time. And then what we were teaching at the academy was like on a prop. And that prop doesn't behave the way a door does. So we were seeing a lot of like issues with our own guys who were coming out of the academy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start. I was always building props. I'm like, I'm going to build a prop that's even more realistic. So I was building more forcible entry doors that were more realistic. We had a contact where I was just getting slabs of doors, like pallets full of doors, and it was just throwing them into the prop and letting them force, okay, flip it over. Okay, flip it over again. Okay, until we've absolutely destroyed these things. And when we were doing that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach a little forcible entry class for every door that I sell. So I'd go and sell a forcible entry door. I teach a class that went along with it. And then I started to move on more than like, hey, I'm starting to see ladder issues. We're not throwing ground ladders as much as we used to. So, and the stuff we're doing in the academy is just IFSTA, stuff. Throw the ladder here, pick it up, turn the ladder here, give commands. Like, it's not how that works in the fire scene. And we don't have those 2 or 3 or 4 people to be able to go move certain ladders. So we started to go and do the things that we were doing on the job and kind of carrying that over. So I got asked several times, hey, could you come down and kind of like go over this with us or teach this class or doing this? So it really wasn't like a company thing. It was more like, yeah, I'll come down to the department. Not a big deal. Let's go over this, enclosed quarters and tight quarters forcible entry, or, narrow alleyways throwing ground ladders, or ventilation, or, you know what I mean? Like all these different things. So we started to continue to do that. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, you know what? Let's go put everything into this and like kind of put programs together and just call it like street smart fill in the blank. You know what I mean? So this way here, it's all the stuff that we're doing on the job, and we're going to carry that over to everybody else and teach them how we do things. And that started just as COVID started. So I was building props, getting ready for all this, and just about to roll it out, got a company name and getting ready to do all this great stuff. And then COVID hits.
Yeah. Game
and
over.
That was it. It was terrible. So the Municipal Fire Academy in Rhode Island never closed. We stayed open during COVID, and we kept pumping classes out in the craziest ways, but we continued to go. So that kind of took a back burner. And the minute that COVID was over, we saw it was even worse now, because these guys weren't getting the time, weren't getting the practical time. And we're like, man, we got to move forward with this. Their departments individually weren't dedicating a lot of time to this. People just didn't want to be firefighters up here, I guess. And they weren't getting the same amount of people to take tests and get them on the job. So they were kind of like hurrying up, taking guys, putting them on them, going through the academy, a little quick, a couple of weeks, and then putting them on a truck. And then really not been able to do a lot because COVID was still in existence, and, it was kicking the hell out of us in EMS runs. So like that really screwed up the whole fire service up here for a while. So the minute that got out and we started to get away from the whole COVID thing, that's when we started to go and implement this more, and start doing certain classes. And it started small, this class here, a class there. I wasn't even considered a company. It was just, I'm going out, hey, we're going to pay you to go and do this. This was a cool message that you delivered, or, the things that you did with Halligan's, tuning Halligan's, or, you already saw the hand sledge, the way that, all these different things that we were using. We were bringing them with us, wedges, and showing them how to force doors in vacant buildings. We're using their vacant buildings or whatever. And it just blew up, and it kept going and going and going and going. Hey, that was a cool idea. The next thing you know, I was asked before COVID to go do stuff with the Fools. I felt super honored when I got asked. I thought it was a really big deal seeing all the names of the guys that were with the New England Fools, and I felt honored for it. I finally got a chance to go up there with them and start to do some programs and teach with them. And I met like the best guys in the fire service, literally top notch. There is no better. I'm going to tell you that right now. The guys that I met with the New England Fools from all jobs, small jobs, major cities, whatever, no egos, no issues. They were the best. And I fell in love with that original fire service belief, because that's what Rusty and those guys were bringing. Hard work, dedication to the craft, the love for what they did. And that's what they brought. And that was what I loved about the fire service. So being able to teach with them in different classes was fantastic. We don't get paid to do any of that stuff. That's all out of, the love for what you're doing. And it didn't matter. The place was jacked with instructors. Every time we said, hey, we're doing a RIC class, we're doing this class, we're doing that class, place was jammed with instructors. Didn't matter. Just for the love of the job. So working with the Fools, and then my buddy Joe Bear, he started his company as well at that time. But he was on the EMS side of it. He was doing the active shooter program and a lot of tactical EMS stuff. So I would jump in. He'd have me over there every once in a while doing SWAT forcible entry. I got certified to do a lot of SWAT entry stuff and just carried it over and put, SWAT guys. How in the hell did the fire department get in the building so quick like that? Well, this would be how you do it. This is a Halligan. We're not using that cheap Gall stuff that you guys buy. Like, so we went over all of that and was teaching them how to do that. And then trying to carry that message over into active shooter of like, listen, we all went through RIT class. We all went through victim removal. We all went through firefighter removal. Why are we going to try to reinvent the wheel on drags and carries and make you guys try to go through all this stuff? Because we already know the minute you get put into stress or duress, you're going to forget all this crap and you're going to go back to muscle memories, which is all the drags and carries that you did in the academy or RIT programming or whatever. You go back to it. So let's not reinvent the wheel. And it worked out great. It was well received. And we continued to do that, continue to work with the SWAT team, continue doing truck company operation stuff, live fire. I was teaching auto extrication at the time and for the academy and for myself. And things just started to blossom from there. Same thing with like EV. I got head over heels into EV stuff with a good friend of mine, Chris Hebert. He's a captain in another city department near me. We both like hit that really hard, going to different programs, reaching out to different companies, Toyota and all these. All right. So we're doing a lot of active shooter teaching because that was a real big push at the time. Joe worked for a rescue task force in his community that he worked for. We did a lot of SWAT stuff for my city early on during drug raids and stuff. So it kind of just fit why I was working with him. And then I continued to kind of branch out a little bit. I was doing that auto extrication as I was talking about before and doing it for the academy, doing it for myself. Then I started to do all the EVLI stuff with auto extrication myself. And again, as I spoke of before, Captain Hebert for another city that's close to us. And the next thing I know, I got a phone call from an equipment company, Genesis Extrication, Howell Rescue Systems. And they were like, hey, do you want to work selling, extrication tools while you're out teaching? And I was like, yeah, you're going to let me use all these tools? Yeah, fantastic. So I was using them already through a friend of mine with that company, and I kind of fell in love with those tools. So it wasn't really a big deal. It was just kind of a great merger. And I've been doing a lot of programs with Genesis. They've basically given me carte blanche and teaching extrication and demoing tools. And we don't really demo tools. We go out and do like an intro to auto extrication with the tools and let them speak for themselves. But full-time or volunteer department, we're still working with them on the newest techniques and tips and tricks, how to train with them. And it kind of fell into place. So, and then it hasn't stopped. I mean, it's been flashover trainings and TIC and all this truck company work, which I love. It's been nonstop. Like, last time I saw you, that was like my 7th or 8th weekend. I hadn't been home.
Yeah, that's nuts. So I mean, like, how do you stay on top of all that? I mean, you listed more than 3 guys worth of careers of stuff that you're slamming into every day.
Good scheduling. That's it. Good scheduling.
So when you started your company, I kind of want to rewind back a little bit. Your initial complaint was the forcible entry door. Yeah. So explain to the audience, what didn't you like about the prop, at least that prop that you guys were using at that time? And then what did you do to make it more realistic?
So I'm going to be honest with you, it was insane. I'm not going to tell you company names because I don't want to get into that, like legality. But so, we were putting in this 1x1 block in the door. You could put in 2 of them. You'd go to drop the Halligan using the adz end in, but they go jack down on it and they capture that. Every time you'd go to do that, there was times where guys were jacking down on it and they were bending the end of a pro bar. And I'm like, why are we destroying tools? Specifically, when we were doing a drive on the forks end into a metal framed prop.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, I'm deburring the end of the forks because we were just crushing them over. Wow. Because you're trying to teach them the proper way, and every time you're doing that, you got to tell them, like, bend the tool, do this. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of like really beating up pro bars, and that was becoming an issue. And then on top of that, kids started to get smart. Don't let them tell you that kids nowadays aren't smart, because I'm going to tell you what, they're pretty brilliant. They catch on, and they were catching on to how many hits they had to go put in before they had to start turning the bar. And then how many times they had to move the bar before they got to just before the crotch to be able to go make the force. How much they had to get over it before they had to force the prop. And then
Gotcha.
by the end of the academy, the inward and outward swinging doors, I'll give you an example, the outward swinging commercial doors, right? You would have to throw the adz end in, and you would have to crush the rail, like on the door's frame, the rail and stop on the door itself. In a regular door, you don't have to do that. We would teach them that, but that they didn't get to see that. So when you would teach them that, you would start to see them because they didn't physically see the outcome of them doing it, that they weren't really doing it. And then when we get out to the field and start to see them do commercial doors, they weren't doing that. And they were struggling and they couldn't figure out why. So I felt like we were doing a disservice to them. And then that prop was just it's not flexing like a real door. It's not behaving like a real door. The forks and the adz aren't setting in like a real door. And I felt like we we're doing them a disservice. And, the prop was just built basically for a lot of reps to teach them how to do forcible entry, but I felt like they were getting robbed on it. And I'm not the only one. There were so many guys across the country I keep hearing. Every time I go to a conference or go to teach with somebody, they're like, we start to talk about the prop, and they're like, yeah, these kids are getting robbed. Like we're talking about instructors, like guys are like, we'll go and dip it in water and make it harder for them. That piece of wood, right? And I'm like, all right, it's funny, but what are we teaching them? Like, we get in there and we start to really jam down on the door. Unless you're dealing with multiple lock systems, you're not going to see that. I want them to get the fundamentals and get a little bit of success before failure, so that they have confidence in their basic skills that they're doing it right before they get into the more difficult stuff. And then, start to remember, I got to work my way down from lock to lock to lock. Okay, I need to try flexing that forcible entry door. You go to flex it on the bottom to see if there's, it's bolted into the floor, right? Or we got a fox lock in it or whatever. No, it's not doing that. It's not behaving like a real door. So that's why I set out. I'm like, I'm going to go build one that behaves like a real door, that flexes like a real door, and we're going to go from there. And trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And finally, at the end of the day, a true real door is a real door.
I'm gonna say I don't even want to say it because it's probably not right. A real door, I don't fucking know. Okay.
So we were building out the frames for them and just getting blanks of doors to be able to stick in them and letting them go to town and not leaving them there. Let them force a couple of times. Then flip the door, rebolt it in, start again. I had so many vacants in my city, but I had a vacant mill. Man, this thing must have had 1,000 solid core doors in this building.
Wow.
So they were going to tear it down, and we were doing some training in it or whatever. And the guys in my shift are like, my guys are solid. I'm like, listen, we're going to come back later tonight. We're going to take a whole bunch of these doors out, put them in my truck. And we did. And I had a surplus of doors so that we could teach, But yeah, that was it. There's nothing more, and we started with that. And that you could see a big difference, a big change in really forcing real doors. And then we started to do things that we started to experience. Okay, what did you experience? Well, there was a bunch of junk in the hallway when I tried to force a door. I couldn't get my air pack where I wanted it, or my axe guy couldn't get into position. Okay, so then you're kind of by yourself. So how do we deal with that? So we started to narrow everything down with a set of pallets. We had to go down. This is so comical. So we're in Mississippi, and I'm talking about forcible entry with them. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, what do you guys want to do about forcible entry? I said, do you guys want to do like narrow corridor forcible entry? And they're like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. And I think it was like Travis was like, yeah. I'm like, it's just like, you heading down a bulkhead to go go force a basement door. And Travis is like,
what the fuck? Yeah.
He's like, what? We don't have that here. But yeah, it was, in communities where we all have basements up here in the Northeast. So you'd have to force that door, and you'll see that way you want to be 6 inches above, 6 inches below, or having to deal with lower lock systems. Your bar is on that step.
Yeah.
And your pack, there's nowhere for you to go. And if the basement's on fire and that's your secondary means of egress, and you're trying to soften up that building, it's a hard force, man. Sometimes you got to get down there, and we teach different ways to do it. Using the hydro ram or the bunning tool, the rabbit tool. You don't have to go and do much with it. Like I just tap it in, pop, 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 and the door goes. There's so much stuff that we've started to get out to people to say, hey, if we get to master these techniques with the bar in normal conditions, let's start doing it in limited space conditions. Let's start doing it under smoke. Let's start doing it with a mask on. You get to the door. One of the issues that we have is that we've got a lot of SROs, single room occupancies, and they sublet like a lot of these rooms. So there's locks on a lot of these doors. So what happens if we get in there as a truck company and they're going to knock this fire down? I don't care if they're knocking it down or they're not knocking it down. We still can't see. Smoke's to the floor, and I'm trying to force this door that's got a lock on it. How are you going to do that? So we started to limit visibility on people, put locks on doors, padlocks on doors. How do you defeat this? You're up on the second floor, or how are you going to do this with a Halligan? And we just built out from there. We wanted to make it the most realistic of the stuff that you're going to see. And that's it. Not, one of the things that used to drive me crazy was, they throw everything but the kitchen sink at you.
Yeah.
This kid's in a sleepy bedroom community. He's never going to see that. Let's curtail what he's going to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This guy's dealing with triple deckers, quad deckers, and high rises. Let's go and train them to deal with that. And that all that came from experience of having to deal with it. I came from a small town department, sleepy bedroom. We had to go and deal with forcible entry with that, with limited manpower, and I moved from there into the city I worked in. I got lows and mid rises, triple deckers, subletted apartments, heavily reinforced drug houses. Like, we had to go and deal with all that stuff. And I felt like it would be a win teaching everybody else how to deal with this. That was like, hey, we come across this lock. How did you guys deal with it? Okay, we did this, but I had like 5 ways to do it because the first time it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And let them know that failure happens. It's all about the game plans that you've got to back it up.
Yep.
Okay, I got a plan B. I got a plan C. I got a plan D. What's Mike Tyson say? We talked about that.
Yeah.
Everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right?
Exactly. And like we were talking too, like, when you're working through your modalities and your plans, like for forcible entry, because you started at A and now you're at D, there's a good possibility you go back to A and now it works because you've crushed, defeated, manipulated this door or whatever you're trying to get through right enough where now the original plan actually might succeed. But it's good that you're teaching guys like this or through all those modalities. But so when you guys were outside of COVID, because I feel like it happened way before COVID, I believe at some point in the American Fire Service, we lost the traditions of force and entry. And when I say that, I mean fundamentals of a 2-man and the fundamentals of single man forcible entry. I don't know why or when this happened, but I know it happened while I've been on the job. It's motherfucker. You're right. I literally I've been trying to think what it was. You're son of a bitch because we have freaking Knox boxes. So that is literally what basically killed forcible entry for a lot of years then. Son of a bitch.
Is the only thing, when I first started in the city that I worked in, we were forcing doors all the time. Yeah. All the time. Every alarm, smells and bells we would go on, we would be forcing doors.
Yeah.
And then somewhere within so many, I can't even tell you what year it was, we started with the commercial Knox boxes, right, on commercial buildings. And then we started to get them on residentials, and we had a fresh set of keys for everything.
Yeah.
But after that, what we found was they didn't update the keys. Mm-hmm. So you went into the box, you got the keys, and there's my truck company standing there like kids with ADD. They're like this, waiting to get in. And it's like, okay, guys, I don't have the keys. Bam! And the door's blown open. That's what happened. We got EAS boxes and Knox boxes.
Yeah, some bitch. And I'm so literally, that is something I've been wondering for a long time because I know it happened during my career and I was too young and naive on the job at the time to even pay attention to it because initially I was thinking maybe it was the rabbit tool is what started the downward trend. But I'm like, no, we had the rabbit tool and we were pretty proficient at 2-man and then somewhere we lost our way. But you're right. You're absolutely right. It's a Knox box. So you forcible entry, I love it, right? Absolutely. We tell the kids right now that we teach, like, hey, you can't do anything till you get through the door no matter what. So it should be like, I feel like in recruit classes, before we even touch a stitch of hose, they should be forcing doors because in all reality, it doesn't matter what you're pulling if you can't get in the door. But that would be, that would be the world to me. But yeah. So outside of that, what else was lacking? So you did say ground ladders. So what were you seeing? And then how were you, now I wouldn't say altering, but what was your main focus for these ground ladders to get these departments back up and running? What was like, hey man, when I leave here, these guys are going to be banging out this size, and this size, for example?
So it kind of came, I think I might have told you this, but for listeners, for me, it always came from mistakes made.
Okay.
And, I'm a big proponent of the minute I'm done with any class or incident, I do a tailboard. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What can we do better? I was probably 3 or 4 years on, and I was at a fire, multi-story fire. It was an arson fire in the basement, and there was people trapped. They were on the fire escape, and we grabbed the ground ladder and started to run down the alleyway, and they jumped before we even got there. So again, I was young. The guy that I was with me was a senior man, and I talked to him. I was like, "What could we have done better?" And he's like, "Nothing. I mean, get there faster." And then being in the city that we're in, it was only 1 square mile. Like, how much quicker could I have gotten there? So, and I'm like, "You're right." And then I kind of like let it go and just took it for gospel. Like, yeah, that was it. But, I started to realize, like, maybe if we would have yelled to them when they got off the truck and we just started screaming and yelling at them, like, "Oh, we're here, we get the ladders. We get, like, don't jump, while we were like running. We always talk about no running on the fire ground. No, you move with a purpose.
Yeah.
And that really bothered me. Like, that call really bothered me that they had jumped and we could have got the ladder to them. So we started to do several years later, we started to do a lot of ground ladder stuff with like speed, single person, trying to keep contact, eyes up at the victims in the windows, saying that, like, listen, if we can talk to them and get their focus, then we can throw the ground ladder. If you don't have time, there's no, like, I'm not going to sit there and bullshit them about the situation and ask them, like, what their favorite color is. We're just going to hurry up, keep eye contact, run, head up, get that ladder into place, and then try to remove them. So we started to do a lot of stuff like, with speed and single person. And it was just comical because we started doing single person 24 throws. Okay. And then within, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 editions with IFSTA, which is, the Fire Academy book. Lo and behold, they're doing single firefighter throws at 24. So, it's just like, there's not, clearly we didn't do that. That wasn't our changing it. It was the fire services changing that they were doing it, working with short manpower, saying that we can throw a 24 with one person. That's a feasible thing. We moved into 35s with 2 people, and then try and throw in with 2 people the same way into the building up against it. 2 people pull it out. They jack the ladder up, get it to where we got to go. We started to work on a lot of that. And then as I became like a captain on the truck company, we worked on it even more. And then it was kind of comical that every day, at least 1 call a day, I would tell my crew, you either set the stick up to a window or a roof, or you throw ground ladders on a call. You choose it. Smells and bells, whatever you want to do, box, whatever. Make your entry, set yourself up, set your ground ladders up, and go to town. The engine company's going in, they're searching, they're going in for look for the device or whatever. I want you guys setting up. So that this way here, when they were pulling up the buildings, they knew what ladder they needed to pull off. They knew the height that they needed. If they were the chauffeur on the ladder, they knew where they had to set up. They'd already been there, 100 times for calls. And then we started to work a lot of that in. And then I started to talk more about that at the academy. Like, look, like the ladders on the truck, be it an engine company or a ladder company, doesn't make a difference. Okay. We got to use them. We introduced that whole point of the taboo of like the chauffeur of the engine throwing a ground ladder.
Yeah.
Man, the whole world went, no, what do you mean? He can't use the panel. Yeah, he most certainly can.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I remember when I was coming up, not saying it was right because it wasn't, but I had battalion chiefs that would come over. I'll give an example. I had a fire on Rand Street, and it was cranking all 3 floors. All 3 floors lit off. It was a first floor fire, balloon frame construction, smoke, and all 3 floors took off.
Nice.
Battalion chief's calling the engine company that's in the basement working. They're not answering. He's calling them. They're not answering. Okay. We got multiple companies operating. He comes over to the panel and says, "Hey, kid, go to the back door and find out why that engine company's not answering." I'm pumping. So, we started to talk about, with the way pumps are set up now, like, we can get him to throw a ground ladder if need be. Okay. On the initial operation. Once those stretching lines, they call for water, you charge them, they're squared, you can throw a ground ladder. If we pull up and they're stretching to the door and somebody's hanging out of one window and there's somebody else hanging out of another window, he can run over and throw a ground ladder. You know what I mean? Nobody's stopping him. You know, it sucks that we have to operate this way in the American Fire Service, that we can't have 3 and 4 people or 5 people on a rig like some other departments have. But that still doesn't stop us in the fact that we have a job to do. Are you going to sit there out on the front lawn and tell the people hanging out the window, whoa, the SOG states that I got to stand here at the panel, sir. You're going to have to wait for somebody else to get that ladder to you. No.
Yeah. So I love what you guys are doing with the ground ladders. What was, and I'm curious because I love the fact that the first thing you said is before you even were talking about how many guys are throwing, you initially talked about eyes. Hey, we're looking up, we're talking, we're screaming, hey, don't jump, but we're actively looking at the scene. How do you teach your students that initially? Because that is always, once you throw a ladder and they're trying to figure out how to remember to throw it the way you taught them.
Yeah.
The last thing they're doing is looking anywhere except for the spurs because they're going to try to drive it into the deck right there. So what do you do for those students to get them to start looking up?
So one of the things we talk about is looking. I'm fortunate to work at Rhode Island's Academy. We were given carte blanche when we started the academy. Literally with the municipal, we were given carte blanche. The gentleman who runs it's a retired Providence fire chief, busy city. You know, he's like, listen, follow the curriculum of what we're going to teach, but make good firefighters.
Okay.
You know, we need to make good firefighters. So the curriculum got covered, they got tested on it, and then it was real life stuff. Look up. You're looking for overhead obstructions like wires. Last thing you want to do is go to jam that ladder in to catch a service drop on the side of a triple decker or even a single family trying to throw it to a roof. You don't want to go and jam that ladder into that drop and then fry yourself. So make sure we're looking up. And while you're looking up, we should be looking at those windows. So we're talking about life safety stuff for them and also adding in looking up the windows for victims. So that kind of gets them looking up instantly. Like, I don't want to get electrocuted. And then they're looking for windows.
I got you. I've seen training guys throw babies. I've seen training guys throw tennis balls, things like that.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like the whole baby thing, I'm kind of always iffy on that because it's a little traumatic depending on the individual, but the tennis balls I love, and I'm guilty of that doing. I'll chuck tennis balls at their heads all day long. You know, it's like, hey, it hit you in the head because you're not looking. You know, if you're looking, you would just move your head out of the way. But I was just curious on how you get them to start doing that because I feel like the typical student will be like, oh, I'm looking for overhead obstructions. And they're like, then right back to, you know, oh, I'm so scared that I'm going to miss this throw. So
we built that comfort zone in where we're allowing them to get proficient throwing that ladder. And then once they're done with all of that, if the testing stuff, we move into that position of reality. Nice. And then we're giving that ability to say, we'll be in the window that they're throwing to, talking to them, yelling. I find that I don't have to go and throw babies or tennis balls, that they're looking at me because I'm up there and they're worried about me yelling and screaming, you know, and they don't really have an issue with that. You know, I don't want to screw them up on the basics. Okay. They're so focused with having to, you know, oh my God, I got to tie this clove around this rung and I got to do all this crap. Let them get used to it. Let them get those reps in. And then once they're done with that, add the rest of it into a form so that the ladders become second nature and then start to put the rescue stuff into it for them.
Gotcha.
They get enough going on.
Yep. No, you're right. So the ground ladders, the forcible entry, let's talk a little bit about the extrication side, because I kind of feel like that really propelled you guys, or at least you personally, especially when you hooked up with Genesis and everything else. So obviously the big stink still in the American Fire Service right now are EVs. And especially when we start talking about extrication until hydrogen fusion comes and knocks all of us on our ass. Like, so EVs is our danger right now. So with all that said, I mean, you work with these tools, you probably do these classes all day long. What, in your opinion, what is the biggest hazard, I would say, to the modern day fireman right now when it comes down to extrication on these EVs?
Lack of education, period, end of story. That is it. We talk about, have you ever been to the Heavy Rescue Conference in Syracuse, New York? So there was an instructor there who was talking about EVs one day. Not EVs, so he was talking about something else. And he's talking about what was the weight of a bulldozer. So the scenario went, bulldozer's on a low boy, they make a corner, they run a car over, The bulldozer slides off the lowboy on an angle and lands on top of the car. How are we going to stabilize the bulldozer, the D7, and lift it off the car to get them out? So first and foremost, you're going to know the weight of the dozer. Well, how do I know the weight of the dozer? Where I'm going to, some of the students were like, oh, we're going to guess. And he comes right out with it. He's like, look, every one of you in this audience has got a phone in your hand. They're like, yeah. They're like, what you need to know is this, GTS. Everybody looked at each other like, GTS, what is this guy talking about? Google that shit. So what he basically was saying is, you've got the whole world of information in your hands. Know what's vetted to look for, and then work from there. So when it comes with hybrids and EVs, you've got apps or the actual company sites themselves. If you put the apps into your phone, or you put in the emergency response guides from the companies in your phone under your favorites, all you do is click, put what you suspect the year on it, work off the VIN, work off the license plate, do whatever you got to do. And then you can put that in and find out where your disconnections are to disconnect the high voltage from the low voltage. All right. And then where you can cut, where your reinforced steel is, where all your struts are. Like, it's an amazing tool. Where your capacitors are that usually hold that voltage for 15 minutes. Like, where all that is. And if you don't, nothing is, we start to talk about EVs. One of my favorite things is Tesla, because we got a lot of work with Teslas. We know a lot of the problems that Teslas present because they've been in the news so much. Well, we start to talk about like Ioniq, or Rivian, or you start to talk to people like, huh? Like, well, you have all of that in the palm of your hand. All you got to do is just go to the app, put it in, boom. It's going to tell you the information of where to stay away from, what your primary disconnects, what your secondary disconnects, and how to work all your workarounds. And then my biggest problem isn't these new kids, Steve. That's I can teach new kids. It's guys that are my age who are older who are cutting one way, and they're trying to apply that same cutting technique today, and it's not working. We're manipulating metal now because of that high strength steel. We were cutting a Subaru 2024 the other day, Subaru.
They're the hardest ones yet.
Yeah, the B post was bomb proof.
Yeah, they are, and they're insane. So, Subaru B posts are insane. Minivans too, right? I always thought, yeah.
So we were talking. I was a couple of older guys in the class, and they went right for the shears, and I was like, look, I'm like, you're not going to cut them. Yeah. He said, what do you mean? These shears will cut them, and I'm like, there's new steels. We're not going to be able. The more we crush them, the harder they get. I'm like, start to think about the carbide tip Diablo blade Sawzall. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yes, let's talk about that. And then, we add in that Sawzall, the carbide tip Sawzall, into hot knife through butter and a B post. Yeah. Right through. Oh, wow, that was impressive. We talked about stored potential energy in those B posts, and we go to make cuts. If we relieve a lot of those cuts with a Sawzall, I'm not shearing the material. You know what I mean? I'm making a cut. So when we start to show them how that works, and add the Sawzall into the mix, like, it was amazing. The new kids all get it. They're all looking into it. As a battalion chief, I'll roll up to an accident. I take out my mobile data terminal, right? I'll look at the car. It's a hybrid or it's an EV. I'll put it into the app, and I'll tell the guys, hey, this is where you're going to have a hard time cutting this, and this. This is where your struts are. Guys, go to work, get your cut profile, get your stabilization profiles. And guys will go to work. That's where we got to be. Even though I do it all the time, I couldn't tell you where everything is. So if we can get that information and then start passing it on and talking about it and doing some extrications, like people like, well, we don't have EVs to cut up. I'm like, make your own. Well, what do you mean make your own EV? Take an EV right off the app, right? We take either tape or paint. We'll take tape and put where the plug would be, right? And then we'll tell them the wire runs right here underneath the dash right across here. We can't cut here, okay? But this is the model. We'll spray paint the model on the car if I have to. And I'll put tape where there's no cut points for them. I'd say, okay, this is your EV. Look it up. Okay, 2023, it's a Ford, it's this and this. All right, I can't cut here and here, and they'll apply all that to what they're going to do. They'll do their dash lifts, no cut dash lifts, removals, whatever they're going to do based off the information. And we're just using a regular car, and then painting where they have to avoid with a battery pack. I can't lift here. Here's the battery pack. You know what I mean? And moving from there, because not everybody can get EV cars.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the biggest issue, and exactly what you said. I've heard multiple times. It's like, well, how we ever gonna get practice? We don't have an EV to cut on. Like we're lucky if we run into a hybrid once in a blue moon. That's in the junkyard that we get to cut on. But that's you're right. Absolutely. Why can't we do exactly what you said? Just paint. And these are the no cut zones. These are the no. You can't crush here. You can't lift there. You just and that's it. I love it. And then you can critique afterwards. Like, hey, this is what the E or G shows. Actually, if this was a real one, we might have fucking punctured the battery pack because of, whatever, that the dash roll or the lift, whatever you were doing. So I love that idea. And I hope the guys that are listening, that are struggling with that, bring that to your department. I mean, it's something I never thought of. I'm literally, when I go back to work tomorrow, and be like, I have the best idea ever. And I'm taking all the credit for it. No, I'm kidding.
Don't mean nothing to me, man. You know how I know.
I was just fucking with you.
No,
it's actually, it's better if it comes from somebody else. Then it'll usually happen. If it's my idea, it won't happen. If it's somebody else's, they're like, oh yeah, let's try it. Sounds great. So you hit the big things where we're basically talking fundamentals of firefighter, the firemanship, basically just being good at the things that we need to be good on. So you were in a ladder truck for a long, long time. You've been doing this company forever. You're doing all the extrication tools and things like that. What else is there left to do? Like, what's the next step for your company in the perfect world?
Just mastering technology.
Okay.
That's it. Trying to bring the new technology to the younger generation and applying it. For example, one of the new things that we're really pushing is fire behavior, fire dynamics, and explaining it all to them. Because when I was coming up, nothing was explained. They just told you that this is what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you just listened. We were not allowed to ask. We were just told to do.
Yes.
And then we started to put science behind it. And what's cool about it is that you take the experience that you have, and then take the science that you have today and the building construction, the understanding, and then you put it all together, and you can physically start teaching the students with this technology that we're talking about, the sciences that we're talking about, and technology and the studies. Like, this is the truth. This may sound crazy. All the stuff may sound crazy, but this is the truth. This is how this operates. And if we can understand how the fire works, we can get better at what we're doing. And, the simple stuff that we did long ago, we're starting to bring back that simple stuff. I always laughed about this. We would joke about it that the guys that didn't have air packs, that didn't wear them, whenever they would go and search, they would go down a hallway, open the door, go into the room, close the door, go in, break the window, suck the air from the outside, finish the search, come out, close the door, hold their breath, go down the hallway to the next room, open the door, go in, break the window, suck the air out. And what they were doing is they were venting each room, entering, right, searching that room, and then isolating the door, and then moving down the hallway to the next.
Yeah, and they were controlling flow paths with no idea that they were doing anything except for trying to leapfrog to their next clean air.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when we start to talk about that, it's like guys were doing this long before we even thought about it. This is what they were doing. So, the science was back then, that they didn't even know it. So one of the other things that we teach is we got the flashover simulator. And wherever I go, they've got flashover simulators, the library buildings, or where we try to simulate it the same way. We never understood. All we got was this. When the roof was opened, we felt a rush of cool air. We felt that cool air, and we thought, we're getting lift while we were moving. And what we were feeling, clearly, as we all know now, is the air coming in from that point of entry, going by us, heading out.
And out.
Yeah, hitting the fire, then heading out. And then all of a sudden, shortly after that, guys were putting water on the fire, or we were closing doors. And we didn't think much of it unless the engine company didn't get to the seat of the fire. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. Rooms started to light up, and we were like, oh shit, this is bad. And everybody started bailing out. And then later on, we were like, oh my God, we must have lost a window. So nobody really understood the whole roof vent thing. Now we can actually show them that with these flashover simulators, where we get the fire going really good. And we're like, okay, engine company's going to make entry. Then we'll have them open the door. Okay. They'll open the right door fully. Right. Now watch the fire behavior. What's the fire doing? It's starting to come to the door. It's looking for oxygen. Here's the neutral plane. You can physically show them this. You can't show them this in a freaking gas building. Okay.
Right.
It doesn't happen. A lot of these gas simulators, they're like, hey, these things are great. We can't show them flow path. We can't show them how fire behaves. We can't do it. So these burn buildings, these flashover simulators will open doors. Then we'll pop one of their windows. Okay, the fires failed a window. Now look what happens. Okay, the building is older. It's not well insulated. We'll crack open a couple of doors and windows to allow that air to get in here. Okay, the truck company has opened the roof prematurely. We're not at the seat of the fire. Feel what happens. Look at what happens. What stage of the fire are we in? What can we do? Here is the hose line. And we get them to interject with the hose line. This is what you do. Watch us push some fire back. Watch us do this. Then we'll do can work. We'll do can confidence. Okay. We can get in, hit the fire quick as much as we can while we're trying to do the search and hold it back until we can get a door to cover it or close the door or, and get in there and do the search. And we show them how to do this. We'll show them that the technology has given us the ability to watch it in video with sensors, and NIST is doing great work. All these different programs, we can see all that, but we're not experiencing it. And these kids want to put hands and science to it. So when you get them out there and you're able to show them, and now they're like, now we're creating that. They know what they're looking for. So when they get into a fire and they're starting to move along and they're going to start recognizing things and calling it out mentally while they're moving in, versus them looking back at their officer going, why is it getting wicked hot? That's what we always used to do. And the officer would be like, open a nozzle, or, just keep pushing, kid, keep pushing, kid. They understand why. Giving them that science, giving them flow path science, showing them with technology and how all of that works. National Fire Safety Institute doing great work. So we're able to show them the technology, how they're using all these sensors and everything in rooms, and they're getting acquired structures. It's phenomenal. So that's what I'm super psyched about in the future of what we're trying to do, is showing them physically how this works and avoiding some of these issues that we have.
Chief, I love it. I'll tell you what, it's funny. I teach the flashover the same way you do, because I like to show the fire behavior. And then even like, hey, the ladder company does ventilate, but has a very poor placement to, so then they could see, hey, okay. And then I always tell them, I'm like, the fire's in the kitchen, right? And then we're in the living room. Look, now we're involved in the living room all the way, so, but things like that. But I love exactly what you're saying, because I remember when, and I'm sure you had the same experience when we all went through, it was just a roller coaster. They would bring fire on top of you. And they would do it a couple times, and then you get out there, you learn nothing. You just got to see, and they told you that, oh, by the way, kid, like, this is below the floor. So if you were in here, you're dead. Okay, cool. So I know if I'm in all that, I'm dead. And then it's really pretty to look at when I'm sitting below, and that was,
you learn nothing.
Yeah, you learn nothing. It was a roller coaster ride. Was it cool? Yeah, of course it was cool. It's first time mostly kids usually ever see fire. But you're right. And now, I mean, we can and I don't know how you guys do it, but we will fill the box, and then we will light the fire, so they get to see all the stages also from the beginning. So they get to see the paralysis from the OSB on the side, starting to off gas, and, starting to point that out. And then you already know the ones I've been reading or not, because you're like, so what's this called?
Yeah. Oh no, we could have call it out. They got to call it out. I'm fortunate enough to have some great instructors that are usually with us when we're doing a lot of this. These guys are top notch. And we started to incorporate the thermal imaging camera.
Yes.
This is what you're seeing. Tell me what it is. This is the mode we're in. What do you see? And then we kind of work that into it. It's not a tick program, but it's being able to apply that technology to the science that we're looking at, and then getting them to see that temperatures and how things are rolling, and then air, and and then the next thing that we did, which is pretty cool, is we keep a crew outside of rookies, and then a crew inside. All right, same thing when I'm teaching class, and I've got somebody outside working with the students that are outside, because they can physically see the smoke and what it's doing, the color of the smoke, pressure, turbulence. So it's almost an intro to reading smoke class for them. So they're getting a bite at all different things for fire dynamics and thermokinetics, and like they're learning all of this stuff and applying everything that they've learned in the book and getting a good look at that and then coming out and saying, wow, this last funny story, this last group that I just did for a flashover training a couple of weeks ago, in the middle of the group, and I'm talking with them. And then, so we come out after, flashover, we showed them all the different stuff, put water on it, whatever. The kid literally says to me when we get out, he's like, Chief, I ain't gonna lie to you, I thought I was gonna die. So to get them into that and say, listen, this is bad, but you're not gonna die, man. Relax.
Yeah, you're good. Jesus. So I love the future, and like I said, I can't echo what you're saying enough. I'm excited to see what the data and technology shows us, because I mean it's rapidly changing. So for guys like us and the people that listen to podcasts are all in the same boat, because they just want to absorb as much as they can, because like you're talking about, like EVs, battery technology changes by the fucking minute. And like I had a battery guy tell me, if anybody ever tells you they have batteries figured out, they're fucking lying to you. Yeah, he goes, because he goes,
Yep.
us, the doctors that make them, we don't even know, so it's like it's so rapidly changing. So for the fire service, it's amazing, but the learning curve for guys coming in on the job now is super steep. So again, I love what you guys are doing, because you're explaining the why. So the students are leaving, they understand. So it's not just the muscle memory, but the cognitive thinking that goes with it. And then you're just elevating their lowest level of training. God forbid they ever get up in a jam, their body's going to do what the body's needs to do, because we all know the mind shuts down. Well, Chief, before we get into the questions, just about your department real quick. Guys love to hear how everyone, every department runs a little bit different. So you're 95% bread and butter house fire, nothing, no goosebumps, nothing, single line, maybe 2 line, no big deal. What does that look like in your system? How many engines, how many trucks? Are you ICS driven? Is it SOP driven? If you don't mind breaking down how you guys run basically a box in your area, or even what you guys call it.
So room and contents, let's say, multi-story, 3 stories.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to staffing for the day, because we do brown out an engine, because of our bankruptcy issue that we had. So we do brown it out. But let's say we're at full staff for the run. Okay, so you get 2 engines, a ladder, a battalion, and our EMS is it's single unit. It used to crossman, now it's a single unit in itself. So essentially, it's running as like a search company or whatever we want. A heavy rescue company. It's going to do whatever we tell them to do. And those guys carry SCBAs, can, book, irons, everything on their rig. So when they show up, if they're coming back from the hospital or they're following us to the call, that vehicle gets parked to the side. They're showing up. Whenever we call a code red, that for us brings in, it's an automatic second alarm. So it brings in another engine from the next city over from us, another engine from the next town over from us, a ladder from the next city over for us, RIT company, which is a ladder and an engine, an EMS unit, and then a myriad of other air supply and so on, as investigators, and you know how all that goes. So essentially, it's initially, if I call the code red and say hold up, then it's just an engine for an attack engine, truck company either for the roof of the search, and then the second engine is laying the feeder line from the hydrant to the primary attack truck. They're tying into there, and they're taking the backup line in.
Okay.
So they'll be either protecting a means of egress, meaning the staircase, or they're going to go the floor above. And if I'm putting them to the floor above, I'm going to a second alarm, because I'm thinking we're losing the building because we have balloon frame. Now, that other ladder is going to be coming in. They're going to go to the roof. We'll be doing horizontal or vertical ventilation, but that's what's bringing us. That's what we're bringing. And my issue is I came from a very prideful time where I had battalion chiefs. And this is crazy, but this is why I love tradition. And we had talked about your favorite tradition. The tradition for us was, in order to call a second alarm, you had to go to the closest street box and pull it.
The old school little,
yes.
You pull, the gears run. Holy
right.
shit. Wow.
And before that, they used to have to manually open it. Battalion chief would have to manually open it and tap it out on the box.
Wow. Jesus.
And then it got to you pulled it and then called and said, give me a second alarm.
Holy shit. That's insane.
And we had some prideful ass battalion chiefs, man, that I work for, that pardon my French, those motherfuckers wouldn't pull a hook for anything. You would be on the front lawn steaming, and they weren't pulling a hook.
Wow.
Didn't care. Nope.
Yeah.
Get another bottle and go finish it off, because nobody else was going to go put that fire out. Our department was known as being one of the most aggressive fire departments in the state. And again, balloon frame, triple deckers, like we had crazy fires in buildings that they just wouldn't pull a hook for. You would go in there. So you had to learn to be a damn good fireman. You had to learn the irons. You had to learn ground ladders, and you had to be good at all of it, because nobody was going to come and help you, because they weren't letting that happen.
Damn. Yeah.
So I remember coming in when I worked in Lincoln. I came in a second alarm, and it was a hot day, hot July day. We pulled up on the second alarm, and all the guys literally were like heat stroke, and they were all laying on the front lawn. One of the guys, good friend of mine, rest his soul, he just passed away. He was a captain at the time. He was out of his mind. Taught fire science like he was one of my mentors. Okay. He had a toupee, and it was so hot that the glue had melted on the toupee, and it was flapped back. That's how hot it was. Yeah. So I pulled up, I'm like, holy shit, this is, I mean, now all 3 floors are going because they're on the front lawn.
Yeah, they're gassed.
Right, they're gassed. But that was the system that I originally started with. That we didn't want help. You weren't getting help. And you had to learn to be a fireman.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Shame on you if you asked for help, basically. Yeah.
And then that changed.
I mean, I remember in the system I grew up in, it wasn't far off like that. It was like, I mean, it was a mutual aid system, but it was like the AMBO guys hated the engine and the truck guys, right? Because they want to be on the engine and the truck. The engine and truck hate each other because the truck's better than the engine, right? And then you're friends as soon as you leave the firehouse, but then you're motherfucking the next new engine in your battalion, but then everything's okay until you invite the 2nd battalion slugs, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, you suck that bad, you had to invite a freaking company the 2nd, but they were all guys. Right. But they were like, that's like, you're like, what the hell? But
no,
I hate to say it, I don't hate it, but it's just, again, it's a tradition, right? But that's, I love it. You know, it's, you grew up in a system where you just had to, and you just figure it out.
And we had to do it all, and we had to learn the best way to do it all. Yeah. So, when we started to talk about honing your skills and practice, man, like that first stretch had to be dead on. Those doors had to be forced. That roof had to be cut. Like you weren't, and there was times that we would go to the roof, cut the roof, and then come back in and have to do a search right away.
Jesus.
Like there was no break. And that was it. Like you worked yourself through a couple of bottles, and it was like done. You would tap out like, I can't, like I'm gonna die here.
Holy shit.
And it was just a pride thing. Yeah. That's all that was. Not saying that was right, because it was insane when we did it. But I'm going to tell you that the firefighters that came up through that time period, and the officers that I had, they set that groundwork for being one of the best departments in the state, the most respected department in structural firefighting. That we used to hear it all the time. You guys are out of your fucking mind for the shit you do, and we loved it. We ate that up all day long.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That just fueled that fire for sure. Well, how's it now when it comes down to striking a second? Not a big deal?
No, it's not a big deal, but we still, I'm still old school. Okay. I'll float my mutual aid company sometimes and be like, have a stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're still letting the boys work for a little bit. Hold on.
Yeah, like I said, I let my dogs off the leash and let them work. And I'm not, you listen to the dinner table. I got 2 great chefs on my shift, and you listen to the dinner table and you listen to the pride come out of their mouths. I didn't need that. We didn't need that. We don't need this. We had this. We have this. And they're right. And I let them work. And I ask them, what upsets you? Like, I'm going to let you work, but what upsets you about, if we've got it, Chief, we got it. And I'm like, okay, you do. Like, we don't need the whole world. Like, if I got it, we got it. Just let us work. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, it instills in them their ability that, the battalion to trust them to get the job done.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So just like, not to interrupt you, I'm just getting this update now. 5 FDNY members from a car fire explosion are injured.
Jesus. Just from today?
Right now. It was just coming over the wire. I'll be interested to see what that is. But they want to work. and I try to let them work, and it instills that trust in them on my end to say they can get the job done, and I know they can. It also instills that pride on them.
There you
It
go.
instills the shift pride, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
instills the department pride, and it instills the piece pride, meaning the engine company or the ladder company, or you know what I mean? And it keeps that rivalry running, and it keeps that old tradition and that old school mentality still working. And it also, there's that safety factor. I have to know, as I'd said before, when I got to pull back on the reins.
Mhm.
But you know, I get let them work.
Yeah. Long leash, short leash, right? You know, long leash. Yeah. It's good until it has to go short. And that's your job. I love it though, because at least you're aggressive. A fireman's fire chief. You know, you'll get guys in there that have been the admin guys or whatever, or moved up really quick, and they can't run a fire ground and save their life. Or even worse, when they were in the right front seat or even in the back seat, you know what their performance was like, and you're like, holy cow, like this guy has no clue what we're capable of, because he was never able to do any of it. You know, it's like looking at different scenarios, like, oh, you can't put the equipment there. Like, well, watch me. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely can.
I always say it that I've got the best truck company captain on the department now. Him and his chauffeur can get that truck anywhere they want, any alley, in between cars, bracketing. They can do whatever they want. They can make cuts. They're ridiculous. And I'm fortunate. I'm blessed to have that on my shift. But you know, they want to be firemen, and they love
Yeah,
the reps. They love going to vacant buildings and getting the reps in. Hey, we
that's
want to
awesome.
try this, chief. Go ahead. Hey, we want to
Yeah.
try this. Go ahead. And being a working chief, I've been yelled at numerous times by our new chief because I've been in the building feeding
Mhm.
hose line to a company, and then go out and do my 360 quick. But I'm fortunate, if I go mutual aid to some of these other cities that are around me, I get to go and do interior operations. So I get to still go back in the building as a
That's
battalion
awesome.
chief.
Yeah, I feel like
So
you're still a fireman. Do you grab a hook when you go back in, or what?
if I'm doing the interior operations, I got to hook it. Believe me, I'm taking it with me.
There you go. Oh man, Chief. All right. Well, listen. Thanks for kind of breaking down how you guys run, because I knew it was different, and great stories. So let's start getting into the questions here. So we haven't had a chance to do the why yet. So the why is the most important thing. Why? So why did you become a fireman? What was it? Did you come out of the womb with the Halligan, or is something you came along later on in life? So what is your story? How'd you get to where you are, boss?
I believe it or not, when I was in high school, I wanted to go in the military, and just wanted to be a Jeep mechanic. That was
There you go. Not
uh,
bad. Perfect.
and I quickly realized that wasn't for me. Um, and I had been volunteering, and a good friend of mine was like, you know, why don't you come volunteer? You know, we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of cool stuff. It's all the guys that we went to high school with, like, you know, that at the time I was still in high school. And, you know, I started volunteering, like I said, and the whole military Jeep mechanic thing didn't work out so well right away. Um, and I found that I was getting that same camaraderie. So I played sports in high school, you know, played football, whatever. And I was looking for that structure and that type of group. You know, the military kind of offers that for you. But I found I could find that in the fire service too. You were getting that same structure, the same group, the same camaraderie, the same pride, the same
Mhm.
hard work. Like you were getting the same thing. And I really loved that. And that's like where I fell into it and found my place in the fire service there. And then it was a group just trying to outdo each other. Hey, I went to like 10 classes this year, 20 classes this year. Back then, the classes were like few and far between. So, you know, we went to this many classes, or we went to this many fires, or this many trainings, or we've done, you know, it's a constant competition to get better, to get better, to get better, to get
Mhm.
better, to get better.
Yep.
And I just loved it. I wish I could say I came out of the womb with a Halligan in my hand, but I didn't. I wanted to be a mechanic.
Yeah. So you came
And
out
it
with the
just,
wrench instead.
yeah. And that's kind
Jeez.
of building props now is kind of how that fell in. Like,
You're always, yeah, mechanically inclined, everything else. But
yep.
it's, you know, I feel the same way. It's that locker room that's how I explain it, that locker room mentality, you know, is what I love so much. You know, it's just the guys that you want to sweat and bleed next to, and everyone has a fucking great time. It's a great time,
Yeah.
you know, even through the shit. And then again, the brotherhood and the sisterhood across the country is just insane. All right. So kind of leading into our next question, traditions, something that we over here in my region are just desperately trying to hold on to and instill, even trying to give back some of the ones we've lost. But what is your favorite American fire service tradition? Doesn't have to be your region. Absolutely can know. But more importantly, why? Why do you love this tradition so much?
I'm going to tell you that it's from my region, and
Perfect.
it's being aggressive firefighters.
All right. Explain.
There is nowhere else in the world that is like us. Zero. Okay. You go to Europe and they've got their funny helmets and they like to fight fire with their technology and, but their building construction's different than ours.
Right.
You're not going to find anywhere that will take that hose line and go headfirst into a building to go put a fire out or go and search for somebody for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it. Being aggressive interior firefighters, that is a tradition that has been going on for a long time. And it's starting to fade away in the rest of the country, but we hold on to it up here in New England like it's gold.
It is gold.
And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see that it's starting to be lost. And we're trying to bring that back where, hey, it's okay to go in the burning building. Okay. Yeah. If we understand what we're doing, then we're going to be okay. Does the fire win sometimes? It does. We could do everything right and still die. Mm-hmm. But we owe it to the people that we're protecting to be interior, aggressive firefighters.
Yes.
And that's for me, that leather helmet.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. But Chief, no one has yet to say that. And I love every second of what you're saying. I have been blessed with the departments I've worked for that they've been both extremely aggressive interior fire departments, but it is exactly what you said. I in my career so far, I've seen a switch from extremely aggressive to definitely not even close to as aggressive as we used to. But I believe, and this is just my opinion, because of the science and because of the buy-off, hey, these numbers directly correlate to what we're doing or whatever it is allowing us, and at least as I preach it is allowing us to be more aggressive because they're realizing, hey, don't stop at the plug, right? And grab and drop a line, go in on your tank water because of the time matter, right? You can occupy a structure without a hose line, right? Because you can isolate doors and control flow. But so now we have science to back. And for some reason, and I'm not complaining, I'm just grateful. I just don't know where it came from. Social media somewhere, but at some point the firemen became in front of the public, right? And we all know that. I don't know when it happened where it's if it was everybody goes home, and it's super unpopular. I say it all the time. I hate that saying because exactly what you just said. You could do everything right and you might not come home. And that's just the inherent danger of our job that we all raised our hand and swore to do. But the public is number one. That's why we exist. Any fire department across the country, their mission statement guarantees has life safety as number one. So shame on us
absolutely.
if we will not. Yeah, shame on us if we don't occupy the structure and make sure that someone doesn't need our help or no one's stuck. I mean, period, the end. And then try our hardest to put the fire out from the interior.
It drives me insane. It literally drives me insane that I've gone all the different places all over the country, and I am seeing them literally can't go in until we get a water supply. They got 750 to 1,000 gallons of water, and we're not getting room and contents down with a can. And you guys won't go in. Or I'm not gonna tell you this is back in the day, but we would go mutual aid to other places, and they would leave the line at the door, and we would pick it up and go in. Like, what are you guys doing?
Crazy.
That aggressiveness, it was bad. It was really bad. And now I look at searches. Searches is my big thing now. And not because it's the niche thing that's going on, but we've been doing searches for years, and we would do half-assed searches.
Yeah. We
weren't doing good searches. Okay. The secondary search would go in there and take care of that rapidly. But the searches were if we just cover these areas with what we have, we're going to be good. And now we're seeing the search survey come out and where they're finding victims and all these rescues that they're making or whatever. And we can apply all that science into our searches and prove points. The chiefs who are out there, when I go to teach a class and I'm like, here's the study. Okay, this is where they're finding them. So to send somebody in there, who close the door with somebody at the window with a tick or without a tick, looking to see where they're going to go make a victim rescue, and then knowing how to make the victim rescue, how to get them out over a ladder, how to get them over 2 ladders, how to get them out a first floor window, how to do all this stuff. This is saving lives. And that's why we're here. None of this writing buildings off.
Yeah.
Okay. Nope. There's nobody in there. There's a good story out of Massachusetts. I'm not going to get into super details, but all I got to say is that the mutual aid company that showed up to this fire was going to get assigned to do something else. The building looked like it was, 3/4 of the way fully involved. And somebody said to this company, out of town, not even there, says, my mom's in that above the garage. And the incident commander is like, no, we're not sending anybody. That company went up there and found that woman.
Wow. Yeah. Good for them.
And she lived long enough to let her family talk, see her, say goodbye to her, whatever. And that poor guy, officer that was on that rig that made that decision, got reamed, harassed, and driven out because he did.
For doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That's
crazy. You heard the whole, what would Danny do?
Yeah.
So it was essentially the same thing, man. He did it because he knew he had taken these classes and done these searches and knew what he was doing and was like, no. That door is closed up there, man. We got to get up there and get her.
Yeah.
And he did. And they made that rescue. And we need to fix that message, push it hard about doing searches. Like, make searches cool again because, they're just not doing it. They're calling buildings fully involved when they're not. They're not going to searchable spaces. And I feel like it's a fear thing. And the fear is overcome by doing these trainings under fire and understanding how it works, being successful at it.
It's crazy too, because some guys will even think that, hey, I'm doing a search because I'm advancing the hose line to where I believe the sea of the fire is. If we find people sometimes like that, but we're not searching for them, you might just get lucky and come across them at that point. But it is like insane to try to talk to some people about getting off the hose line. And they're like, what? And I'm like, why would you stay on the hose line? Like you have more time on the job than I do, but 19 years, I've never seen a victim hanging on the wall. So why are we on the wall? Like it's like, seriously, I might see it one day, be like the one in a million, but I've yet to see, I've never even heard about it. So why are we on the wall searching, or why are we on the hose line searching? We need to be off, and we have to be forward thinking firemen and be able to do that, but I think all the data with the rescue survey, the freaking, the Mayday survey that's out now, it's helping guys like us be able to preach, hey, this isn't our opinion because we want to be aggressive because we love the job. This is actually facts. Like, if we are aggressive in the first couple minutes of the fire, things go good, and then it becomes safe. If we're safety minded because we're going to stop at a plug to make sure we have a guaranteed uninterrupted water supply before we even pull the tack lines, right? The fire is growing rapidly. Like it's not getting better. Us acting makes things better quickly. But I feel like we are transitioning a little bit, I hope.
I feel that it all comes down to the training. I feel departments aren't doing enough training. They're not doing enough live fire training. They're not getting out there and putting these techniques that we know to work and seeing them work and getting reps in. And then it's letting that become second nature. I'll give an example. Just fire academy, right? You go to the fire academy. We do all this training and they go in and they find the victim. What do they do with the victim?
They chuck them out the window or out the door. Then they go back in the building.
Bring them out to the landing, and then they go back in the building.
Right.
Okay?
And they just die outside.
That's it. They're building training scars.
Correct.
And, I feel that, going out and training and doing these things and taking them out windows and getting them comfortable with taking out windows. There was a fire in Fall River, Massachusetts, not too far from where we are. They had a fire in a convalescent home, and they made a shit ton of rescues over ladders. There are so many great pictures of these guys doing some amazing stuff, taking people out of windows. These were invalid people using high point anchors to remove people out of windows that couldn't walk. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I sat there and was like, here's a group of guys who have done some training on moving people So why can't everybody else do this?
They can. They absolutely can. They just don't want to.
That's it. They become complacent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Feel
we
like they
can do
don't need
that.
to. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't need that.
those guys in that video and those photos you're talking about, that's not the first time they did that. You know, that's
No.
probably the 300th or 400th time they did that. You
Yeah.
know, guaranteed. Because if
Yep.
not, it just doesn't happen. Especially
Yep.
something, you know, that high level expertise area of freaking victim removal. That's insane.
Yeah.
But
It's crazy. It really is. You know, we need to work with real people. You know, when
Yeah.
we were, again, go back to Mississippi. We're in Mississippi. I'm doing first floor removals and I'm using real people. Why?
Yeah.
Because real people are what you're taking out of a building.
right. They got bones, you know, you
Yeah.
can use those bones to help, right?
Yeah. Like you can manipulate them like how you need. You know, you can go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. And I mean, even just talking about that, I remember a period in my career that I remember there was a huge stink on never losing live people for victims, period, the end. And we weren't talking like 1403 fire stuff,
No.
talk anything, you know, or if you are, God forbid, you're going to have to rig them 8,000 different ways that it's not even realistic at this point. But yeah, it's nice that we're finally being able to find different ways to train guys, right? With real life people, because again, like you said, that's what we're grabbing. And we're not grabbing, and when we're grabbing guys, we're not grabbing firemen. And I don't know about you, but I'm guilty of it early in my career too, like learning how to drag firemen. Most of the time, we're not dragging guys with clothes on. For some reason, victims, you know, they're naked. I don't know why they're naked, but they're always naked, you know? So it's like you don't have their sleeves to yank on, right? Or their
No, you've got
belt
nothing.
buckle. You got nothing. They're not wearing the jeans and belt to bed. This is Oh Dark 30. They're naked, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's when you find them.
Yeah, but I love it. Well, the tradition thing, aggressive interior firefighting is just amazing. So let's go on the other side. So we snap your fingers. Favorite question. Boom, something changes in the American Fire Service. What is it? But why? So that's adding, deleting, whatever you want to do. Basically, you're the chief of the universe for the day.
Right off the rip, what I got to say is following an NFPA and, you know, how many people are supposed to be on scene, mandatory US-wide staffing.
Okay,
Period.
what would your minimum staffing be?
4 on an engine, 5 on a ladder.
Okay, perfect. That would be amazing. Every state in the everywhere. That would be, no one's ever said that. So what do you believe is the biggest benefit of having let's say at least 4 dudes on a truck?
So I can't remember the study. I off the top of my head, there was a study that was done and they did simulated structure fire. So suppression, search, ventilation, secondary search, rescue, so on and so forth. And they did it with 4 guys on an engine, 5 guys on a ladder. Then they dropped it to 4 guys on a ladder and then 3 guys on an engine. And they wouldn't even go to 2 guys.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
And they told the study that came out, which was stuff we already know, the more people, the faster we can get tasks accomplished, the quicker we can get to fire suppression and rescue.
Nice.
There's no wasted time.
Yeah,
And that's what we found. And time is the key element. Fire, you used to know the whole thing about fire doubling every minute back in the day. Now with your combustibles that are made of hydrocarbons, which I call foam, like solid gasoline, we don't have that time. And now throwing lithium-ion batteries, rooms to flash over even quicker, we're up against it early.
Yeah.
And if we've got the staffing to be able to do primary attack line, secondary attack line, searches, hose above the fire, like ventilation, if we can get all of that accomplished in a rapid succession, we're increasing our safety, increasing victim survivability, and then getting into that whole property conservation and all the other stuff that we're supposed to go into. We can do that.
Yeah.
We can actually have the staff to be able to do that and have better outcomes. That's what I see.
So I don't know if you even have an answer to this question, but just your opinion or what your feeling is. Why? Outside of money, because I know that drives everything. Why? Why isn't it just like that right now? Why aren't you running the same staffing as I am in New York City and Chicago? Like, why do you think it's such a big, such a dramatic, like we're talking to guys in Mississippi, driver only, over 14 different stations, you know, and then a guy from Memphis, Tennessee running 4s and 5s on trucks. I mean, complete, but they're less than 2 hours away from each other.
Money.
So like, it's only money, is it? Son of a
Money
bitch.
and then politics. Like politics lays into the next thing. You can't have that money without the politicians supporting the mission. They got to support that mission. This is why you'll never see that it's mandatory. We got these recommendations on staffing, but you'll never see it mandatory because they would have to pay that, which means that no matter what, that's got to get paid for. So their pet projects and all this other stuff that they want to get done to make them look good isn't going to be able to happen because they can't financially afford having enough guys in this truck. The thing I'm gonna throw this at you quick. Capital City, Providence. Same buildings I have in my response district. Okay. They're probably a stone's throw away from where I am. All right. They've got 3 guys and 4 guys. I've got 2 and 3. Same building structure, same fire loads, same all of it. They've
damn near
got more.
same zip code. Damn near, you know?
Up the road from me, 15 minutes up the road, it's the city of Woonsocket. Same thing. 2 same buildings, triple deckers, same fuel load, same everything, just not high rises like the city has. All the same setups. 2 and 3 people. Okay.
Crazy.
So what's the difference? It's not the housing stock you have. It's not the amount of calls. It's not the amount of fires. It's not anything. It all comes down to money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's
that
it.
sucks. Well, I don't know if we'll ever solve that problem then. So, but it's all right because I'm already got my next $1 million idea, and then I'm just gonna buy my own fire department, and then all the trucks are gonna be black on black, and it's not your fire department. We only run jobs. That's it.
So, that's it. That's it.
All right, brother. Well, listen, we've been yapping for a while. I love the fact that you took time every day to sit down and just talk shop. You guys doing over in freaking Rhode Island is amazing. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to kind of just leave the audience with before we sign off, my brother?
The number one thing is I'm going to tell you that what an eye opener it was to go to Mississippi.
Same.
And what I mean by that is that, you know, we'll hold a Fools event and we'll get a lot of people to show up, and you know, it's an amazing time and with a lot of people. I go to Mississippi and I see I like more than what we're seeing up here at a program, and with the same heart, but even more people there. And just how much love they have for the job. And then on top of it for each other, and how much they care. You know, I give a shout out again to the 2 dudes who made all that possible. And they really, in the morning with a Fools, what we do up at a Fools conference, let's say, is, you know, Rusty brings everybody in, have the American flag up, and we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. And I loved that. You know, God, country, family for me. Okay. And I loved that. And I think that was great. I go to Mississippi and they're praying before. Yes. And I got a black and white picture of all, I don't know, like 60 people there or something, all together with their arms around each other, praying for a good day, thanking the Lord, and then praying for the safety of everybody. And to see that kind of love for each other in the fire service, like, I had a tear in my eye. I was blown out of the water. And it's not what I expect. But I'm going to tell you, I was happy for it. And what I would like to see, like we didn't cover it, was the love of the job and the love of each other. Okay. We got to take care of each other. We do. We're losing all of those traditions of, you know, I don't drink anymore, but we used to do the first day, like 5 o'clock beer. Guys would get out, they'd have a beer or 2, talk about the shift or whatever, and then go home and get something to eat. Our 24s, we don't do that anymore. We're not getting together like we used to. I'm not seeing Christmases together with families because we're together for how many years before we retire? We watch everybody's kids grow up. We know their wives, we know their families. We know, you know, they've watched their mothers and fathers pass. They've gone to funerals. Like, we're not as close as we used to be. Right. And when we were that close We were unstoppable in the fire service. There was nobody that could stop us. Union, not whatever, nobody could stop us.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems that we went from a calling to a job. And that's not what this service is about. It's not a job. We're not punching in. It's not 9 to 5. Okay. Everybody's got to be involved. We do a family night at the academy. First couple of days of the academy, we call in their family.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, you have become firefighters as well.
Right. Welcome.
Yep. You've got to deal with their good days and their bad days. You've got to be their support system. You've got to be able to take care of them in the bad times. You've got to understand them when they're struggling and it's a holiday and they get held over. They don't want to be held over, but it's their job. And we bring the families in and explain that to them. We're finding with this, it's better success when we involve the families and make it a family issue versus just an individual, and the family doesn't understand on what's going on. They don't know how to handle their significant other. I had a bad day. I had a kid die. I had some bad fires. I need a little bit of sleep, or I just want to eat, or I just want to be with, my significant other or my kids. And that's it. Want to shut the rest of the world off because I just want to be here. I haven't been home and I just want to be here. I don't want to be bothered. Mm-hmm. And we're finding that successful. And we need to start to really do that and involve their significant others and families into this, because the fire service as a service isn't going to last. It's going to be a 9 to 5 job, and this can't be a 9 to 5 job.
No, there's no way. No one will do it longer than 5 years.
Yeah.
This is a 9 to 5. No, there's no way, because the trauma bond alone is what keeps us going for 20 to 35 years, but
I'm going to tell you that I responded to the Station nightclub fire here in Rhode Island.
Okay.
And I don't know if you were familiar with that.
I am. Okay.
Small state, a lot of connection to that fire. We were supposed to be there that night seeing Great White. I took overtime. My wife decided she was going to work at the hospital. My in-laws get out of work late. We were all supposed to go there together, and we didn't. I ended up responding. She was at the hospital, took patients. I was on an EMS unit that night, had to do treatment. And I lost friends because it's a small state. Without that structure to be able to help me through with friends and family, to help me and everybody else that responded, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be talking to you. So we really need to push that, having a comfort structure to be able to talk about what we see and what we do. It's no longer taboo. Okay. We have feelings. And if you push that shit down for years, it's going to creep up on you. And I'm going to tell you from my own personal experience and friends of mine, bad things are going to happen to you. You're going to lose marriages. You're going to lose friendships. And at some point, drugs and alcohol or suicide. And we need to do better. Okay. We need to do better. And this is things that, the listeners, I want them to be able to recognize this, that, no matter where you're from, volunteer, pull down, I don't give a shit. Fucking call me, text me, whatever you're going to get done. You want to talk about it? I want to hear your shit. Joe Bear wants to hear your shit. He was there. We lean on each other constantly. We've got a great support network. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here. So I'd really like to get that out and push that. Take care of each other, man. This is all we got.
Yeah, you're right. And I agree with you. Mississippi was amazing. The picture you're talking about, I remember sending that to my wife once I got a copy of it. And it was just like, these people are different. I said, this is a good group of people. It's just exactly what you said. They do a very good job of looking out for each other, is what it feels like. And it's, you were coming from, I'm East Coast born and raised, but I'm coming from Arizona, you're coming from Rhode Island. We're embedded in our kind of culture, and we both meet. And I think both of us had the same feeling, this is amazing. And I wish I had that back where I work right now, that hospitality. And they weren't joking when they said, hey, we're all about hospitality. They are.
Yeah.
Yep. Besides looking at me funny every once in a while, and you, because we talk a little bit different, that's about it.
Yeah.
I walked in the cafe the first time or whatever, asked for a glass of water, and the girl just looked at me And I took for a second, I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, can I have a glass of water? Right? And they're fucking laughing, but I'm like, wait, what are you gonna do? You can't even get mad. They're like the sweetest people ever. They're freaking amazing.
They are. They are.
You know?
I came prepared. I walked in and said, "Can I have sweet tea?" So at least I kind
Okay.
of threw him off. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this guy's got a fucked up accent, but he
Yeah.
asked for sweet tea. So
you might be okay. Yeah.
they're not going to kill me right away.
Yeah. No, I didn't get any, I didn't do any research prior to, but it was, again, I was pleasantly surprised. And shout out to Old South Fools, you know, Travis and freaking Jacob. Those
Travis
guys are
and
freaking
Jacob, man,
killing it. So yeah, those guys
Cat
are awesome.
Daddy and the Beast.
Yeah, so Old South Fools annual every year. So check them out for 2026. It would be the next one coming up fall. Yeah, those guys are killing it for sure. But Chief, all right, well, listen, thank you again, my brother. Thank you for supporting us for the Copper State Fools.
Hell yeah.
And again, kind of just to piggyback on what you're saying, that love and taking care of each other, that's what I find in the Fools. You know, I feel like it's like-minded individuals. So if you're listening this far and you hear this and you're kind of searching for that, find a Fools chapter. They're everywhere, you know? And even if New England Fools is great. How many states are you guys?
We got Canada now too.
Fuck.
Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I do believe we picked up Connecticut as well because they lost a couple of chapters. And then we just picked up Canada. Like last year, we picked up Canada. We had bros from Canada come in for a class, and that was amazing.
Dude, that's so cool.
It was amazing, you know, being with them and talking with them to see how they do things in Canada and how we do things here. And, you know, it's just like, I can't wait I would like to, as I talked to you before, we did an East Coast trucking thing here 2 years ago. And this year we were talking about trying to do it again to see if that's feasible. Like if we've got the time and the instructors and the finances to be able to do it. We wanted to do it again. It's been a little bit hectic for the past couple of years. So we haven't been able to do it again, but we wanted to try to do it again here. And then, you know, when we do bring guys like you in and bring Jacob and the boys in and like bring guys from all over as instructors, like so all these kids from all over the place can see these different things from different people and how there's a different perspective and a belief. And sometimes we bitch about our things, but we're spoiled. Like, you know, and just, you know, bringing everybody together to be able to do some training and having that camaraderie. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, like find a Fools chapter. Like we say all the time when we say, if like the biggest question is, why are you not a fool?
Yeah,
you know?
It is. Why are you not a fool?
Yeah. And
honestly,
it's the best culture ever. It's a subculture inside our culture that we have. And it's just guys like us, good dudes, just trying to make everybody better. And that's it. And like I said, I don't think there's been one time that I haven't learned something new from a Fools meeting, because we always host a training class. And even the most mundane, what I feel like going into it, and we're all guilty of it, you know, going to this class going, this is probably going to be a waste of either 8 hours or 2 days or 3 days of my life, but I'm getting a fair shake. And you leave going, man, I was a fucking asshole. Like I didn't know half of that, and more embarrassed going into it, thinking I was better than I was, you know? And again, like we're not as good as we think we are. We can always get better. And
nobody is.
Yeah. And if we leave our ego out of the fire service, imagine what we could accomplish. You know, it's like, who cares if it's a guy that has 1 day on the job that taught you something, you have 35 years on the job? Who fucking cares? Right?
Yep.
Is it better? Does it work? Yeah. Then maybe thank the kid. Right?
Yeah. It is. I feel the same way, man. Like I've seen guys who, I don't know, they get a different perspective on stuff, and that's looking and listening to what they're doing. It's like, wow, you know what? Let me try that and see if that works. We'll do some drill yard stuff with it. And then, you know, once we get the mastery of it, we'll figure out, hey, this works for me. Hey, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're trying to improve our craft. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is doing different things.
Yeah.
That's it.
And even like we were saying, like just if we're talking like ladder work, just foot placement or hand placement or body placement on a single man 24, being on the fly side or not, it's depending on where you're coming from, it might click or make sense or work better for your system, that you're like, shit, I never thought of it that way before. Or I did, you know, or I never tried it that way. And fuck, that's way better for me. or my
Yeah.
region or the setbacks my house have or the alley, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
dude, I love it. And that's the best thing about the American Fire Service, in my opinion. And again, like that's something that we are, and why you're even on the show, because you give a fuck, you know? You're here just donating your time because we get to talk about fireman shit. And that's my favorite part of the day, you know?
I get to talk about fireman shit, and that's what I
Yeah.
want to do.
All right, my brother. Well, listen, thank you again for coming out. For anybody that wants to look into what you guys offer as a company, please tell them how to find you, Instagram, websites, Facebook, whatever you guys have, please.
At Instagram, Facebook, social media is big. I mean, if I don't get back to you, like, today or whenever, like, I'll get back to you in 24 hours because I'm nonstop.
All right. And
I am
again, that's
literally
Truck
nonstop.
Company. Yeah, Truck Company Manifesto on Facebook and Instagram, correct?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, Chief. Well, listen, thank you again. Everyone that made it this far, thank you. We'll catch you guys in another 2 weeks. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back in another 2 weeks. Remember to like, share, review if you can. Helps drive traffic to our podcast. Remember, let's leave our ego out of the fire service. It's amazing what we can accomplish when no one's looking for credit. Much love. Let's stop beating our own and become better firemen. Catch you next time.